For the latest information regarding the COVID-19 pandemic in Cupertino, please visit cupertino.org/coronavirus.
Good morning and welcome to Facebook Live with the County of Santa Clara. My name is David Campos. I'm a Deputy County Executive and I serve as the Public Information Officer for the county's Emergency Operations Center. We're here this morning with James Williams, who is the County Counsel to the County of Santa Clara and also the Director of the Emergency Operations Center. Just so you know, before we started, we actually had our face coverings on and took them off so that the American Sign Language interpreter could actually interpret. So thank you for tuning in, and let me begin by just giving the latest numbers on cases in terms of where we are today. Today, as of yesterday, there are 2,819 cases of people that have been infected in the county, 143 deaths, and we are sad to report one more death added to that number. And of course, our thoughts and prayers go to the family of those who have died because of this virus. So thank you for tuning in. And James, we're here today to talk about this revised order that was announced earlier this week on Monday, and it's going into effect June 5th, which is this Friday.
Yes.
In fact, tomorrow night, 12 midnight, it goes into effect. And so you, again, as County Counsel, work with the health officer to write this, to put it in place. So let's take this opportunity. What does it mean? What does it do? What's different about this order compared to where we were?
Well, this order is significant because while we are still in a shelter-in-place order, this represents a very substantial opening. And I think we're actually at a point now where there is more that is open than closed, although, of course, with appropriate social distancing protocols and with appropriate other precautions in place. But I think that's an important milestone, and our community has done a phenomenal job with shelter in place. The results here in Santa Clara County have been extraordinary, and it's really because of that progress that this big shift has been made. You know, with the openings, you know, at the beginning of May 22nd, with curbside retail, and now on June 5th, with so many more categories opening up, it's a challenging shift of framework because in some ways the message is simpler when it was just a total shelter-in-place message, and now we're in kind of a transitional phase of the response where there's increasing focus on the testing and case and contact tracing, but like I said, a majority of businesses and activities are now open with modifications, and that means that there's a lot more that we can do out and about outside of our homes, and I can talk about some of those categories.
Before we go into the specifics of the order, and I have here, by the way, a chart that was provided that includes all the activities that are open. You have worked with the other counties,
yes.
And so let me ask you, how do we compare to other counties when this order goes into effect on June 5th?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you know, we are all counties in California operating under the framework, of course, of the state's own stay-home order. And so we're really in what the state would call, expanded or extended stage 2 under their roadmap. With respect to the other Bay Area counties, with the things that were already opened on the 22nd and the things opening this Friday, we actually have more things open in Santa Clara County than in many neighboring jurisdictions. And in terms of elsewhere in the state, there's actually largely alignment in what is open. And I think that's sometimes missed with some of the focus on some of the specific things where there may be differences that actually, for the most part, there is alignment, and in Santa Clara County in particular, some of these new categories like the outdoor dining and in-store retail are ones where we actually have moved forward ahead of some others.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point, because it seems to me, just from looking at where we are compared to other Bay Area counties, that we might be, perhaps with San Mateo, the most open county in the Bay Area. I think that there is a very good argument for that. And so let's go through the specifics, okay? So one of the things that's mentioned is dining, outdoor dining at restaurants. So
yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the assessment of the health officer and her colleagues and others is that, outdoor activities in general are less risky than indoor ones. And so outdoor dining is opening up for Friday. There will need to be, distancing between tables and other appropriate safety precautions. And in fact, we're putting out guidance for restaurants and food facilities. It's actually a great opportunity for me to remind folks that we do every business that's open, essential businesses, but even all the new ones opening. You should see this sign, this COVID prepared sign, and you should also see this social distancing protocol visitor information. And this is a summary sheet on what are much more detailed social distancing protocols that every establishment has to have in place that are tailored to those particular establishments. And that's going to be true for outdoor dining. The other big category, David, that's opening up is in-store retail. So we had curbside retail opened up on the 22nd of May. Now we have in-store retail opening up with density limitations. In other words, the number of people who can be in at one time with appropriate protections and safety precautions for employees and for customers. And so those are, of course, top of mind, but all in-store retail opening also on Friday.
So that means that when you go to a retail store, there are certain guidelines that have to be followed by the store and by the customer as well?
Yes. And some of the important ones just to remind residents in the county, face coverings are mandatory entering any open business facility, indoors or outdoors. And that's one very critical, concrete safety precaution that we can all take, in addition to maintaining social distancing, having outstanding hygiene. And there are steps that each business has to take to facilitate that, including signage, including the protocols that I outlined.
So James, we're getting some questions through the Facebook Live, and one question was, what about hair salons, barbershops? When do those open?
Well, if you've watched me on the last few Facebook Lives, you can tell my hair's been getting longer, so I understand the question very much. At this time in Santa Clara County, those kind of direct personal services where there's direct extended contact between individuals are not opening, so that includes hair, but it's something we all are very cognizant of, the fact that people want to get a haircut, and hopeful that that's something that can happen soon, but not this Friday.
So let's talk about some of these other things. So you have manufacturing, warehousing, house cleaning, you have pet grooming, dog walking, and anything else that we're leaving out?
Yes, I think there are some other significant categories. One is, a lot of these non-personal services. So not just retail for goods, but also the ability to access services, things like, shoe repair or, getting items fixed, things like that are services, but they're not direct personal services. Those will be opening up as well. All manufacturing. All childcare, including summer camps, and there's guidance on that. And I know that's something, as a parent, that's something that many of us have been looking forward to having opened. And so that's a category, not just, childcare was already open for essential workers and workers in other businesses that were open, and now that's opening up to everybody. So that's a huge one. And then other outdoor activities opening up as well, and with the wonderful weather out there, that's another huge category where there's some big expansion.
Other questions. So going back to retail, in-store retail with some restrictions is open. What does that mean for malls?
Yes, so shopping centers are allowed. Again, there's criteria, so density criteria and guidance that needs to be followed, but does allow shopping centers to open as well.
Someone asked, can I visit family within the county or other parts of the county? How does that work?
That's a great question. The outdoor activities are now extended to allow interaction between a couple households, but again, outdoors. We're trying to encourage activities that are less risky, and so that's the framework right now, but it's something that I know many people are curious about. In addition, outdoor religious services, up to 25 people with social distancing, and also drive-in or car-based gatherings. And so those are some other kind of important categories.
Now, I know that one of the questions that comes up is in terms of the guidelines that have to be followed. So let's talk about summer camps. I know that we have been working very hard to outline some of the suggestions that people follow. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there is specific guidance for summer camps, and it really revolves around this concept of creating a stable group of no more than 12 children with camp leadership or with an instructor, so forth, and having that group have some stability for at least 3-week periods of time. And the reason for that is if there's an exposure, a COVID exposure, trying to actually limit the number of different households that would be impacted where there would be spread to those entire households. So that's kind of the core piece to that. And there is detailed guidance, not just for summer camps, but many other areas. I know people have questions, with the weather, for example, opening up pools, and some specific criteria are outlined for swimming facilities, and in many other areas. And one of the things we've tried to do, and it's a slightly different approach than some other places have taken, we've tried to really keep those criteria focused, not issued pages and pages and pages of guidance, but really tried to focus in on the most critical criteria, and then really ask people to take the time to have their protocols in place that are individualized to their specific facility or their specific circumstance. The state has guidance that industries and businesses and other open sectors need to follow, and so we've tried to harmonize there to make things as frictionless as possible. We know that it's a lot for people to sort through, so we've really tried to keep it as broad-based and focused as we can, and where we need to have specific criteria based on the input from, based on the decisions of the health officer, we've put those in place but kept them focused.
Now, pools. I know that's a really big deal. With the summer, we're feeling the heat today, and we're opening pools on Friday. And in fact, I think we might be the only county in the Bay Area that is doing that.
I think San Mateo as well, but
San Mateo as well. So, will there be rules that need to be followed if you have a public pool that's open? How does that work?
Yes. So we do have a few criteria for pools, focused on ensuring that there's social distancing between households, and for lane swimming, that there's one swimmer per lane, and a few other key criteria, not having gatherings on pool decks or use of locker rooms. And so those kind of few criteria out there. Again, it's not pages and pages. It's really about 6 or so key points, in addition to each facility having its social distancing protocol.
I know something that many of us are wondering about: gyms. I know gyms are not included in this list. How does that work? I mean, when do you see that happening? I know that a lot of people are asking that on Facebook.
So you're right. There are gyms and other places where there is greater risk associated with interpersonal interaction or use of shared equipment that are not opening at this time. And I know very much that we all hope to be in a place soon where those activities can open as well. And so we need to together as a community continue to make progress, stay stable in combating COVID, so that all of those things can return to. But no, those kinds of places where there's a lot of shared equipment, where there's greater concerns about being able to actually maintain social distancing and appropriate hygiene and cleanliness, are not places that can open quite at this time.
Drive-in theaters, are those allowed?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that there's a chart that actually I think is very useful that has all of the activities that are allowed, and I think people might be surprised by how much is actually allowed. But one question that I have, and this is something that Dr. Cody said yesterday, that because we're opening up so much right now that we're going to wait, I think 3 weeks before we make the next change. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think that what Dr. Cody shared with the Board of Supervisors yesterday was that this is significant, and it's important to take a measured approach, and that's something that she has outlined actually for quite some time. We have the indicators that are shared among the Bay Area health officers, but you can't really see what's happening without waiting at least an incubation period. And so in order to make data-based decisions and in order to make thoughtful decisions, you have to have that little bit of space. And also in order to ensure that we can have the right types of guidance and criteria in place too, where people can actually be in a position to implement the appropriate protocols. And so I know she has made that commitment and has signaled that with this significant opening that happened on the 22nd, followed by this even more significant opening happening this Friday, that we'll need to have that pause and make that assessment. And I know that she looks at the data every single day, and that will be something that will be closely monitored.
Last question about process in terms of future. I know that we're working very hard to provide more information about, sort of what might be next, not necessarily a timeline, but at least some idea for folks. And can you just talk a little bit about that so that people know that, we're always thinking about how we can give more information?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and I know there's been some places that have tried, put out some timelines with specific dates. Here's one thing that I can say from having worked on the very front lines in dealing with this virus for months now. Every day is different, and we keep learning a lot of new things about how the virus itself impacts us and also what's going on in the community. And so I think that it's important that when we share things about what's going to happen, that it's not false precision, and so putting out specific dates, I think, is a challenge when so much is changing so quickly, and so the framework has been shared. I absolutely encourage folks to look at the public health website with detailed FAQs, detailed information, that chart that you were showing, the social distancing protocols, the guidance that's available, as well as the data, data dashboards that are updated daily, and you can see all of that. But I think that having trying to map out some very specific dates in the future when there's so many moving pieces can give people a false sense of precision. That being said, I think a concrete thing that every business can do is to think now about what modifications would need to happen to accommodate the social distancing protocols and guidance. And that framework and those protocols and the broader guidance is on the website, is available, is something that everyone can look at, even if there are some more specific criteria for a specific type of sector that might come later.
And I know that we will continue to provide information to businesses. I think one of our next Facebook Lives will focus specifically on outdoor dining so that we can give you more specifics, including the guidance that was provided. But a lot is opening up, so we want to provide a couple of pieces of information. First, to folks who want to report any concerns, beginning with workers. There is a number that they can call if for some reason as a worker you find yourself working in a place where you don't feel it's safe. The number is 1-866-870-7725, 866-870-7725. And then for members of the public that would like to just report any concern around COVID-19, please go to the following email. You can email at publichealthreferral@dao.secgov.org, publichealthreferral@dao.secgov.org. And again, we're going to continue to provide more information as this process proceeds. One other thing, and we have said this before, is that we know that it's a very difficult time. There's a lot of protesting that's going on, and we understand the pain that's leading people to do that. We obviously respect the right that people have to peacefully protest, and simply remind them that as they do that, to please take precautions, make sure that you're protecting your own health and the health of others by using a face covering to the extent possible, to please keep social distancing. I know that's difficult when you're in a protest situation. And then if you have been part of a large gathering, to please make sure you're tested, and you can go to secfreetest.org, secfreetest.org. James, thank you very much for being with us. I hope this was useful, and please be safe, stay cool. It's hot out there. And again, thank you to all the residents of Santa Clara who are working with us to eradicate this virus.
Thank you.
For the latest information regarding the COVID-19 pandemic in Cupertino, please visit cupertino.org/coronavirus.